I'm Shuvaloy Majumdar, Member of Parliament from Calgary Heritage. I'm joined by great colleagues of mine, Dan Muse, Ned Couric, and Randy Hoback. Randy Hoback is the chair of our Canada-U.S. Shadow Cabinet Committee. I'm the Shadow Minister for Canada-U.S. relations. We're assembled here today at this particular site commemorating 1812 because 200 years ago in 2012, Prime Minister Stephen Harper had commemorated the announcement of the Gordie Howe International Bridge. A moment in time 200 years later, from great fiction to the greatest relationship that the world may have ever had seen at the time between Canada and the United States. A flourishing relationship of peoples and countries that had endured wars and depressions and hard times together in common cause. Today, regrettably, I'm here because as we now have learned the details of the Gordie Howe International Bridge late last night, we've discovered that not only has the Prime Minister caved, Liberals have indeed lied. Tragically, they had said that there was no concessions that Canada should be concerned about. The Prime Minister had made the case that he made a good deal for Canada. He had said that there would be a sharing of revenue after net debt. Instead, we have seen something very different. We've seen the admission that this has not been the deal that was promised, that indeed Canada would not be paid back until after 15 years of shared revenue, that the Americans would hold a license on the kind of pricing that would be set by the toll. And it's really part of a wider string of concessions and obfuscation. It was tragic that it had to come under Conservative pressure for so long to get clear answers after weeks of chasing the facts. It's sad that we had to threaten a parliamentary committee to expose the details of this, but thanks to the work of the press and the opposition, we now have facts for Canadian taxpayers for a $6.4 billion expenditure of a bridge they built, of a bridge they paid for. This is now in the string of 1.5 years of concession after concession that the Prime Minister has made, whether it's on the DST, the Netflix tax, whether it's on rightful decisions like defense spending or hardening our border and going after organized crime. The Prime Minister has made Canada vulnerable to ad hoc negotiations by an aggressive United States administration. President Trump has launched unjustifiable attacks, tariff attacks on our people, our livelihoods, our way of life. He has created mass uncertainty for our sectors. We're here today in Hamilton, where we have recently just heard from people who have been tariff affected because of the decisions that the president has made. These are unjustifiable. We call on the United States administration to dispense with them immediately. And we call on the Prime Minister to start making the decisions that Canada needs now. We haven't had a lot of transparency in the last year and a half on what the Prime Minister has actually concluded for Canada. We have seen him instead turn to Beijing and turn to Europe rather than focus on a deal for North America. He had at one point decried a world of fortresses, only then to say that we have to build Fortress North America. We have seen a year and a half of squandered opportunity to fight for the Canadian interest. And tragically, we have not seen the results that Canadians expect and demand. Conservatives will stand up and fight for every worker in this country, for every sector in this country, for every inch of our sovereignty, from the north to the southern border, from the Pacific to the Atlantic. Conservatives will fight to reanimate the strength that Canada needs to build true leverage with. That means implementing Auto Pact 2.0, a deal that's good for Canada, good for the United States, increasing auto production on both sides of the border, and increase market share in global markets. We would unleash our resources by repealing anti-development bills that have scared away investment in our country's production, with shovel-ready projects, partner with First Nations, and decisions within 6 months. We would build a strategic reserve for critical minerals and energy security in the world that would allow us to engage not just America, but the world with the strength and confidence of a country determined to fulfill its purpose. And we would reanimate our defense industrial base that would supply the world much of what it needs right now in defense of the free world, just like we did in the country in the period before two world wars, in the period during two world wars. I'm honored to stand here with my colleagues today and take your questions. Obviously, the Gordie Howe Bridge should have been a moment where kids from both sides of the border were playing street hockey, using Canadian-made sticks, and celebrating a great relationship. It's a really sad moment that this is how Canada has slipped into this announcement, an announcement that's important for workers on both sides of the border, especially for us, for our auto workers, our lumber workers, our steel workers, our aluminum workers, whose goods and products will be on that bridge in the days ahead. Thank you very much. I'm open to your questions.
So when the Prime Minister Minister made comments about the bridge earlier on. Was he being truthful and open about the thing, or is that just a miscommunication? Or?
Listen, I'm not here to make excuses for Prime Minister Carney. What I would say is that he has our sympathy when it comes to dealing with a tough and unpredictable negotiator in the United States. He does not have our sympathy for obscuring the facts around the Gordie Howe Bridge, for hiding the details. He's a very smart man who has a background in finance and banking. It's hard for me to believe that him and his finance minister did not know what they were saying at the time, hoping that scrutiny would erode and that ultimately they'd be able to escape the day. Accountability has been won for Canadians today by learning more about the bridge, but it's not a win for Canadians on the terms that should have been made. Had Canada been acting the way it should have been over the last year and a half, we would have been in a much stronger position to discuss our partnership with the United States on a range of issues, whether it's our relationship in North America through CUSMA, whether it's through individual tariffs, whether it's through ad hoc negotiations like we've seen on the Gordie Howe Bridge, on forced labor products, on critical minerals opportunities. A lot of these things would have been abated had a year and a half ago the Prime Minister not squandered the opportunity that he was given by Canadians to negotiate a deal. This is something that Conservatives are obsessed with. We are determined to actually deliver a Canada that has the strength and ambition to negotiate a successful deal with the United States and be confident in the world. Thank you very much.
So now that the deal is changed from that, what's your comment on the fairness of the fact that we were going to split the cost now before the bridge is fully paid?
Well, Canadians paid for the bridge. We built the bridge. We had a deal in which we'd be paid back first for taking on all that risk. All that risk has now evaporated in the context of these negotiations. And in a sense, it's a very bad deal for Canada in the string of a long list of bad deals for Canada over the last year and a half. It's time that Canadians got a good deal for the country at large, a government that was focused on actually ensuring that their workers have the ability to produce things, to sell things, and to do it with the certainty that they demand so they can plan their payroll, plan their budget, and plan for the future.
Do you think that splitting the net revenue is an acceptable price to pay to cash in on any of the benefits of this bridge?
It's an unfortunate price to pay, as is the surrendering of our ability to set the toll prices. We also don't have a full picture in terms of what the Canada-U.S. Economic Development Group will be dispersing those funds towards. We don't know who's around the table on that side. We're told that it's entirely American administered for the revenue that they're going to deny Canadians from receiving earlier as a result of this bad deal. And we don't know why the name Canada would then be placed on the Canada-United States Economic Development Group. So this has been a bad deal for Canada.
Thank you, sir. My second question is, this bridge was supposed to be a major binational accomplishment, but now it's caught up in all this controversy. What does the drama around this bridge opening say about the Canada and U.S. relationship?
I think what it demonstrates is that when you have a government that has been negotiating with weakness, that has been dilly-dallying on making the big decisions that would unleash Canadian productivity, that would allow our country to achieve things working together as a federation we were promised in 1867, I think what it shows is that the approach that the Prime Minister has taken over the last year and a half of wait and see has not been working. Again, he has our sympathy when it comes to dealing with a tough negotiator in the United States. These tariffs are unjustified entirely. We call on the United States to repeal them immediately. Canadians are sick and tired of being made into a punching bag by President Trump and have the self-respect to fight for their existence and for their country. And they deserve a government that's willing to do the same thing. And so in the string of concessions we have seen, concession after concession after concession, over a year and a half of squandered opportunity to fight for Canada, to fight for the Canadian interests, Conservatives are proposing an alternative that would actually deliver a deal for our country, that would have the backbone to deal with an aggressive administration, and more importantly, the backbone to deliver a country that will prosper for the next half century. Okay, thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Have a great summer afternoon.